So Elon Musk is suing OpenAI. Did you hear? You
I
didn't
did
hear
not.
about that at all?
Tell me.
Okay.
Yeah.
So basically, you may know this, but Elon has some founding involvement in like almost everything that's interesting going on in the world. And one of those things is OpenAI. So back in I think it was like 2014. I might be wrong on the exact date, but Elon Musk and a few other really smart people in the Bay Area decided we should start a foundation to um, basically develop artificial general intelligence in such a way that we can make it safe, so that AI doesn't take over the world, right? So Elon believes that artificial superintelligence is the single biggest threat to humanity that has ever existed. I think his exact quote was something like,
Yeah.
"There are other threats that exist, but none of these other threats are likely to kill every single human on the planet in the same way that artificial superintelligence presents that threat." So he basically thinks like if artificial superintelligence has the like sort of wrong reward or the wrong goal, and for whatever reason that goal involves like exterminating humans, like he thinks that artificial superintelligence would be is extremely effective at doing that. Whereas a lot of other threats that present themselves to kind of the earth and humanity may not necessarily kill everyone. They could be catastrophic, but he thinks that ASI would basically kill everybody.
It's pretty mind-boggling.
Right. So here's kind of how it all went down. So probably like 10 years ago, Elon Musk bumped into the founders of DeepMind. So he basically was meeting with this company DeepMind, which at the time was basically had a monopoly on all great AI talent. All the great AI engineers were working at DeepMind, and DeepMind was trying to solve a lot of different AI problems, right? So I think DeepMind famously like built the engine that beat Gary Kasparov at chess, and then eventually beat the best person in the world at Go, and so on. And so DeepMind was kind of early in AI developments, and Elon was like, "Oh, this company is awesome," and he talked to the founder, and he was like, "Hey, so are you worried about the threats that AI could pose if like it does get to a point where it's sentient and super intelligent, and possibly like has the goal to kill humans?" And the guy was basically like, "Oh yeah, it's like maybe a problem, but like didn't really like have a good answer or care too much." And obviously Elon was like, "Oh, that's kind of strange, right?" And basically like sort of a few years after that, or like sort of over the next few years, it surfaces that Google is going to try to buy DeepMind. And so ultimately Google is trying to acquire DeepMind, and Elon basically scrambles, and he goes and he knew Larry Page, one of the founders of Google, and he basically talked to Larry, and he was like, "Hey Larry, are you worried about AI safety and making sure that AI doesn't kill all humans?" And Larry was like, pats Elon on the head, and he's like, "Hey, it's like, yeah, it's not really that big of a problem, blah blah blah." It doesn't really like give him a good answer, right? It's like not my concern. And Elon was like, "Well, don't you think that's like a really big like problem? Because if it's if it's got this goal to kill humans and it's super intelligent, it's going to be able to succeed at that very effectively." And Larry was basically like, "Well, Elon, that's like evolution, right? Right? So like some intelligent life form, just like, yeah, that's evolution. That's fine, right? That's Darwin. We can't control that. We shouldn't interfere." Which is kind of a backwards thing to say, right? Like we are interfering, we're creating it, right? So essentially, Elon was like, "Well, I'm pro-human. I think that's stupid. Like we shouldn't be building something that we know is going to exterminate us." And Larry Page basically said, and Elon loves this story. He loves telling this story, but he basically says that Larry told him he was a speciesist, and that he's
I mean, that's what it is. It's a
yeah.
species versus non-species.
He's like,
Like,
you're
like,
species,
yeah.
you're speciesist, and you should
Larry's like, well,
that's
that's
a bad
evolution, and Elon's just like, no, that's going to kill us all. Like,
right. So fast forward a little bit. Elon Elon is not satisfied with the answers that he's getting, right? So he's like, "Okay, he scrambles and he runs around and he basically tries to put together a fund to buy DeepMind before Larry Page. So he tries to assemble a bunch of capital from different sources and try to buy DeepMind. I think at the time the valuation was like $500 million, and he couldn't do it. He couldn't scrape
Yeah.
together all the money.
Can
This was
I
pre-Tesla Elon.
And real quick, remember where you left off so you can get back to it. But Elon did something similar with Twitter, I believe, where Twitter page was tracking his jet, the whereabouts of his jet. He didn't like it, and so immediately he goes and starts buying a bunch of shares of Twitter. And I think that's kind of what led to the eventual purchase of Twitter, where he's like, I don't like what they're doing over here. I want to buy them so that this doesn't happen anymore. So I think he's doing something else with the AI thing. He's like, wait,
Interesting.
they're
I
trying to
didn't know
kill
he
off
was doing
people.
that.
I think his strategy is like, I don't like what this company is doing. Fine, I'll just have to buy them.
One Twitter,
So
please.
yeah. So anyways, keep going. So he wasn't able to get the purchase of DeepMind, but
Yeah, so he wasn't able to buy DeepMind, and so Google ends up acquiring DeepMind. You know, he's worried because Google has infinite resources at this point. Elon, I think, Tesla was not doing well at this point, so Elon was not as rich, couldn't buy DeepMind outright, and basically he kind of assembled a ragtag crew, I guess, of various not big names now, but people in Silicon Valley that were um, interested in the same thing as Elon, which was promoting AI safety and building artificial general intelligence in such a way that it would be safe and wouldn't try to kill all humans. And so he ends up talking with the kind of big names here are Greg Brockman, Sam Altman, and Ilya Sutskever. Basically, I might have pronounced that guy's name wrong, but Ilya, Greg, and Sam, kind of the founding people of OpenAI, and I mean Elon, of course, who's from my recollection, he basically was the kind of driving force behind creating OpenAI. And so the original goal of OpenAI was to be a nonprofit whose goal was to make safe AGI, right? So the idea was that like if we can like build AGI in such a way that it will not like kind of the thought being, I think, is like if we can build this sort of AGI with a fundamental pro-human bias, anything that gets built on top of it will not let it morph into the Terminator, essentially. And so that was kind of the idea. And so it's like, okay, we need to beat Google in this race so that we can be the de facto AI model that is pro-human, right? Because Google is not even trying to solve that problem, or they don't care, right? So fast forward, OpenAI gets launched as a nonprofit. Sam Altman's running it. Sam Altman at this time is the president of Y Combinator, which I don't know if you know much about Y Combinator. It's basically like a fund that invests in startups, and the way they kind of get deal flow is what it's called, is they have these competitions where a bunch of startups can enter the competition. They get to prototype, build, and pitch their company, and then Y Combinator will invest. And Y Combinator has amazing returns, like super successful in this regard. And so basically, Sam Altman is the president of that, and he's also sort of a entrepreneur himself. Founded a few other things that did pretty well. Nothing, no huge hits. Y Combinator was what he was known for. So OpenAI, nonprofit, make AGI safe. Fast forward a few, I don't know, several years, and basically OpenAI decides, okay, well, I think the only way that we can get enough money to actually compete with Google, and by the way, emails were released. So Elon filed his lawsuit. OpenAI posted this blog post where they basically like release emails that Elon had with them way back in the day. And in a lot of these emails, Elon is basically saying like, yeah, we're going to need billions of dollars to do this if we want to even like hold a candle to Google. Like the possibility that we beat Google in this is extremely low, but the only way we can actually do it is if we have billions of dollars. So we need to go raise as much as we can in donations, and I'll fill in whatever you don't get from other people. And so over the course of however many years, I don't know exactly how much OpenAI like raised in funds, but Elon basically invested $45 million. Like not invested, donated $45 million to OpenAI, the nonprofit. Okay. In these email exchanges, Elon like kind of agrees that, turning OpenAI into a for-profit company so that you kind of get like the effects of capital markets to fund this thing. Like if you need a ton of money, what's the most efficient way to do that? It's to use capital, right? And the only way people are going to invest billions of dollars is if they can expect a return. So this decision was kind of made to convert OpenAI into a for-profit company. So basically what happened, I think the legal structure of this was OpenAI for-profit was created, and then there was the nonprofit. The nonprofit basically just gifted the engineering team and all of like the cash reserves to the for-profit entity. And from that point, you now have this for-profit company, and the OpenAI starts getting tons of investment, and obviously becomes the OpenAI we know today. And they create ChatGPT and basically beat Google to the punch. AGI, whether it's been created or not, or that's kind of up in the air. Like we don't really, I don't know if you believe ChatGPT is AGI. I don't think it is, but that's one of the foundations of this lawsuit that Elon filed, is that OpenAI has achieved AGI. That's kind of one of the arguments here. So here's where it gets really interesting though. So Elon is basically saying that, and this is like the core legal argument that I like agree with, but he's basically saying, okay, well, OpenAI basically started out as a nonprofit, collected a bunch of donations from me, $45 million, which if I owned, at that time, if I invested $45 million based on like whatever you could assign the valuation of the company, I'd be like the majority owner of this company. But when you created this for-profit, like you just handed off the cash reserves, created all these shares, distributed them to employees as though it was like a typical San Francisco tech startup with, all these employees get option packages. Basically shares are distributed to, new investors, or new investors get shares in the company. But Elon's 45 million, he doesn't get anything for that, right? He's on the board. He's just on the board of OpenAI. Anyway, so disagreements kind of continue, and then Elon eventually leaves the board. I forget exactly why. I think it was because at that time OpenAI wasn't making tons of progress, and he also, like, Elon wasn't like really happy with the direction of where things were going. Probably not a wise move, but anyway, fast forward, and now Elon files this lawsuit, and basically he says, I didn't get anything for my donation in OpenAI, even though it was converted to a for-profit. So if this is true, where you can just like start as a nonprofit, claim your mission is something, collect a bunch of money from people, and then go create a for-profit venture. If your mission is to create open source AI, nonprofit, but then you just turn around and create a for-profit closed source AI company, and then you just keep all of that donation money as like cash reserves in your for-profit company, either that is illegal and something is wrong here, or every company should be doing this, right? Like this should be the way every company does it, because it's an extremely effective way to just like raise a bunch of money and then not have to give out any equity to the people who raise money.
Raising money disguised as donations for the nonprofit.
right.
Literally.
Like,
so he's just
like, hey, and convert it. Why not? Why is everybody not doing this? Okay, so that's kind of the crux of the argument. And one of the things Elon said that was so funny, he basically was like, that's basically like saying, I'm going to start a nonprofit to save the Amazon rainforest, raise $100 million. And then I'm going to take the $100 million, create a for-profit logging company. It's just like the opposite of the mission, right? It was open source AI, nonprofit.
It's called OpenAI.
It's now for-profit, closed source.
They're like, guys, our name is now closed AI, by the way.
No, that's okay. It's so funny you mentioned that. That's actually one of Elon's settlement options. He said in the lawsuit, he said, I'll let you settle by simply changing the name of the company to Closed AI.
He is such a troll. I love it. It's hilarious.
No, so Elon is a master marketer. He's a master at PR. He's kind of got this like awkward genius charisma that just works. Like it just works. It's new. It's not like the typical kind of like smooth talking. Like he just has this beautiful way of like you kind of marketing to everybody. Like AI, Tesla famously.
Well, the thing with Elon is like he's very polarizing, right? It goes back to kind of our brand talk. He's being authentically himself and kind of in a way that he knows the mass markets will like. So he's not being this like, very like polished billionaire type. He's going for whatever the fuck
Yeah,
he wants to say. And like me saying the F word there is kind of like exemplifying, like he's saying whatever he wants to say type of thing. Because
yeah,
he knows that that brand is actually going to get that reaction from people. So yeah, it's
totally,
marketing.
totally. So it's going to be really interesting how this whole thing plays out. I mean, one little detail that's kind of funny is that this guy Ilya, he was like he's I think currently chief scientist at OpenAI, but when he was I don't remember if he came from DeepMind or not, but Ilya was basically Google's best AI researcher. He was their like foremost guy in all of the AI research that Google was doing. And Elon basically stole Ilya away to go work at OpenAI. And it was really, really hard because Google was paying like the comp packages for AI engineers at Google was insane. Like salaries, like Google was literally paying some of these employees 5, 8 million, 500, 800K, $1 million, $2 million per year in salary just to work at Google on AI. And so OpenAI had a really, really tricky challenge ahead of them, which was actually getting good AI talent because Google was just mopping up everybody because they had infinite resources and they could pay these AI engineers so much money.
Hey guys,
So
we're gonna have to take a quick pause break for time. We'll be right back after the break. All right, guys, we're back. Christian, where did we leave off?
yeah, so Elon basically stole away Ilya from Google. He was able to convince him to come work at OpenAI, and from that point forward, Larry Page just completely stopped talking to Elon, and Elon stopped talking to Larry because there was kind of that strife from Elon stealing away their best AI engineer. So it's an interesting saga, and it'll be cool to see how it plays out. Do you think Elon's gonna win this lawsuit?
So he's mainly suing them because of the change, right? And that pretty much he made this donation and now they're a for-profit company, right? Is that pretty much it? Or does it have more
Yeah.
to do with the potential of AI to be destructive and now that it's closed and not open and things like that? Or is it just
I
mostly about
think
the
he's
money?
saying that the mission of the nonprofit is no longer the mission of the for-profit, yet the for-profit basically absorbed all of the things of the nonprofit, all of the funds, the people,
Mm,
everything from the nonprofit was just transferred over to this for-profit, but the mission is no longer the same. And so it's kind of like this very strange thing where you were able to create this nonprofit under one mission and then seamlessly convert it to a for-profit under a different mission, and one that's like kind of breaks the charter agreement, which is um
yeah.
I don't even
So
know if yeah.
my question will be, how does the potential for AI to be destructive to humans tie into this? Because we talked about that a little bit in the beginning. It was just kind of a side point.
It's a side point, right? It's just the purpose of what OpenAI was what the the mission of the nonprofit. That was the mission, to
Gotcha.
make safe AI.
Okay.
And basically Elon's saying that that is no longer really a goal for OpenAI. In fact, it's closed source, for profit. So that you can't really get the benefit of an open source project. Which, I mean, Elon's take was that, oh, if it's open source, we can all kind of like use the sort of group I guess goal of not having Terminator be the result of this company, but you can't have that if it's closed source because now you only have the executives of that company making those decisions instead of kind of the open source community being able to weigh those checks and balances. But that's kind of an interesting angle too, because like, what if if you have an open source AI model and you like it's possible somebody can take that model and go do something nefarious with it. In fact, in one of the emails that was released, Ilya basically says at some point it will make sense for OpenAI to be more closed just because it'll be very powerful, and so it won't actually make sense for it to always be open source. So it kind of was an early thought that eventually it will be closed source. I don't quite remember if Elon. I think Elon just said yup. Like he just replied yup. And it was this huge email. Like Ilya sent this huge email and then Elon just says yup. Period. So it's kind of like you could tell that Elon was like a little bit disagreeing throughout this email chain. And then like he sends just like this one word answer. It's almost because OpenAI is kind of trying to use that as a you can tell they're trying to say like, see, Elon agreed to this back in the day. He agreed that this was the right approach to go for profit and make it closed source. But Elon basically just says, yup, which is like, that is that really like a formal, yes, I agree, this is the right approach, let's move forward this way. It's kind of just, it feels like you're skating past my points and I'm just like, all right, whatever, sure. You know, that's kind of what it seemed like in those email threads.
Gotcha. Well, I don't know. I mean, I couldn't tell you. I don't know the legal jargon and different things, how it's going to play out, but it is interesting. And I didn't really even know that OpenAI was transitioning to that for profit. I didn't know much about them in general. I don't really do too much messing around in ChatGPT, but yeah, we'll see how it plays out. What do you think?
I think Elon's going to win, but I don't think he's necessarily going to win the lawsuit. He's going to win the PR, points. He's gonna come
Like
out of
people
this
agree with
with,
him
yeah,
because it does make
exactly.
sense. Yeah.
I think people are going to be like, hey, you know what? Like, even if Elon loses or they're not able to come to a settlement or Elon doesn't get his OpenAI shares or whatever it is, I think people are still going to be like team Elon after this, or at least the folks that already are team Elon are going to be team Elon.
Yeah.
So I think he's going to win the PR war. He might lose the legal battle, win the PR war.